The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, building new infrastructure out of the ashes of fallen federal grants as we talk with folks from Resilient Valley about their mission and inaugural campaign.
And we'll hear how baby planets get born from parent planetary disks with Mr. Universe Salman Hameed.
But first, this Sunday, an event that has become a marker of the year for Northampton will once again take place.
And we'll finish with a sweet treat for everyone as Safe Passage seeks to raise funds to help those in need.
Yeah, I remember early days of the hot chocolate run where it was so cold. I could feel every nose hair in my nostrils.
Yeah.
But thanks to global warming, hot chocolate run is usually pleasant.
No sentence should ever start that way.
Thank you.
The glass is half full of water that used to be ice.
Oh, God. That is dismal.
Welcome to Monday.
I mean, it's Super Monday, so...
This Sunday, the Hot Chocolate Run for Safe Passage returns to downtown Northampton. And joining us from Safe Passage is the Executive Director of Winter, Marianne Winters.
Yep, that's
now
me.
that it's December and the snow is a-coming, as well as the Development Director, Natalie Ulrich from Safe Passage. The Hot Chocolate Run for Safe Passage is so huge, it is the most amazing fundraiser that we do here in the 413, in my humble opinion. But there may be people who even, how many years are we into this now?
22.
22 years into it, do not know, A, what Safe Passage is, and B, what the Hot Chocolate Run is. So let's start with Safe Passage. Marianne, maybe that's a good question for you.
Sure. So Safe Passage has been around for almost 50 years, and we focus on domestic violence and relationship abuse, both the impact of domestic violence on survivors and their families, and working with the community around engaging in prevention.
About how many people do you estimate that you work with in a calendar year at Safe Passage? And from where? Like, what's your scope?
Right. Most people are from Hampshire County, and more we're hearing from people from Hamden as well as Franklin counties. So we hear from somewhere between 700 to 1,000 people a year.
Wow.
And, some are a one-time call for referrals, and others engage with us for a long time in different ways.
What would they need to call you to get referrals for?
It really is based on what the person presents with. Sometimes they're looking for ways to think through safety planning, which is something that we can do. Other times they're looking for resources to help with food insecurity or how to get winter clothing for their kids, things like that. Other times people know that they need housing or they know that they need an emergency shelter. So those are some of the things that we make referrals for.
Some people may have an idea of what domestic violence looks like. It's a physical attack, but it can be so much more than that. And Safe Passage has taught me a lot about that being a fact of the matter too. Can you talk about some of the other things that people might not even recognize as abuse that Safe Passage helps to address?
Yeah, domestic violence is really about tactics toward control and maintaining power over the person. So when you see it in that light, through that definition, some of the tactics are or could be threats or physical violence, threats for homicide, sexual abuse, but also there are emotional factors, like ways to coerce someone to either do what you want them to do or to feel a certain way. So a lot of the damage that people talk about in their own psyche is from that emotional level of abuse where people start doubting themselves. People talk about gaslighting and being coerced to either engage in activities that they don't want to engage in, participate in criminal activities, sexual activities, things like that, or just almost like a campaign that I've heard people describe by the abuser to diminish someone's self-esteem, to promote isolation, to really separate them from their support networks, friends and family. So it's a campaign of tactics.
And it makes it that much more of a huge leap when somebody recognizes that they're experiencing this and makes that call to somebody like you at Safe Passage.
Right.
Because as you were saying, you're now having to help them maybe find food or clothes for their kids because their whole life structure may fall apart if they are brave enough to say, I need to find a way
Right.
out of this situation.
Right. And it helps you understand why people want to explain it away in a different way. Like, oh, no, this isn't abuse. This is just a bad day or mental health issues, things like that. But then when you get to that moment, you can picture everything falling apart. We work really hard to try to reach people as early as we can when they're first recognizing some of the signs and symptoms and some of those tactics, because the longer it goes on, the smaller someone's support network gets. And so the earlier we can reach people, the better that they can maintain what they do have going for them, like a job, like a supportive faith community, supportive family. But once the isolation sets in and that either health or finances diminish, it's really difficult to try to rebuild from there. Research has shown that it's a inverse relationship between as abuse escalates, all of the things that you need in your life for well-being in all of its different aspects are diminished.
It's like its own cliff effect.
Yeah.
kind of.
Exactly. Yes.
We're talking with the executive director of Safe Passage, Marianne Winters, who will be celebrating, despite how heavy the work that you're doing, this Sunday when thousands of people will amass in downtown Northampton.
Some of them in costumes.
One of whom we've just recently lost, tragically, but I want to mention him afterwards. But will come to downtown Northampton for the Hot Chocolate Run for Safe Passage. Natalie Ulrich, this is the biggest fundraiser as the development director for this organization doing this really important work. We've had the originators, the creators, the brain trust behind this fun, dumb event on before. But tell us what happens at the Hot Chocolate Run for Safe Passage.
Sure, yeah. So this is our 22nd year, and what happens is people show up on a cold, usually, but hopefully bright and sunny December day. They sign up to walk or run in the fun run or the competitive road race, and most importantly, they sign up to fundraise and raise money to support the services at Safe Passage. So it is one of the most successful fundraisers in Western Mass, and it's also one of the most successful athletic fundraisers in all of New England.
Oh, really?
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
The goal is ambitious, and I always cry a little bit whenever I'm there and they reveal the goal.
You and me both.
Yeah, it's such an emotional time because it really, and as I mentioned in years past, Safe Passage and the Hot Chocolate Run together have done such an amazing job of weaving the message of the important work that you're doing into why people are walking, why people are fun running or competitively running. But the goal is ambitious. What is Safe Passage hoping to raise in the Hot Chocolate Run?
Our goal this year is $800,000, and I'll tell you my secret goal, which is $850,000.
I thought you were going to say $1 million.
I mean, I would love to get
Can
there.
I make my secret hope goal for you be $1 million?
Yeah, please do. I love that. I love that the Food Bank of Western Mass and Safe Passage might have secret $1 million goals this year.
We have
That's
$1 million
incredible.
ambition.
Yes.
It's amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
But literally thousands of people sign up to participate in this. I can
Yes.
see on your website right now, which is really fun to go to because if you're like me, you'll like constantly refresh this browser to see like,
Oh, yes.
how many more people are participating.
Yeah.
How are we up to right now?
It's one
So
of
you-
the tabs that's on since September.
Yes.
and you're at 73% of the goal already with 5,571 participants with 490 teams. That is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
How much of your yearly budget does this make up? Like, how far does that $800,000 go for what Safe Passage does?
Yeah, the money raised from this event is about a little less than a third of our annual budget.
Yeah.
And all of it comes in as unrestricted dollars. So for anyone who's from the world of nonprofits, that is an incredible resource for Safe Passage.
Yeah, like somebody may say you can have this large amount of money, but you have to buy a Steinway piano if you want it.
Right.
Exactly.
Very
Yeah.
helpful.
Not that happened here.
I wonder why you would say that.
Yeah. And then where does the rest of your funding revenue come? Do you get grants? Are you state funded? Are you federally funded? Are those grants in jeopardy given what's been going on
That
with the
was going to be
shenanigans
my question.
in Washington,
Well,
D.C.? Marianne Winters
we
from
do
Safe
get
Passage.
both state funding and federal funding. Unfortunately, we did get a cut in one of our state grants, in part because the state budget is so overwhelmed with requests due to cuts at the federal level of our $3 million budget. About $1.5 million comes from state and federal dollars.
One of the things that I like about where the Food Bank March has grown is that it's gone just from trying to raise money to solve a problem today to try to figure out structural change.
Yes.
One of the things I've seen through the Hot Chocolate Run for Safe Passage is the money raised has been trying to educate to prevent domestic violence before it happens. Can you tell us some of the details about that program and if you're able to measure its success in any way?
We started our prevention work literally with Hot Chocolate Run money. About 15 years ago, we started talking about that. And we started a prevention program that's focused on adults in the community, as opposed to a lot of the curriculum that are out there are for middle schools or high schools. And we said, the adults have something to do. They have the power, they have the money, they have the vote. So why are we putting prevention of domestic violence on the backs of children?
Yeah.
So the idea there is that the more people who are engaged as bystanders in a community, the safer that community grows. So every time someone goes through that educational program, develops skills, learns how they can make a difference in their own world, they learn how within their role as a parent, as a teacher, as a business owner, as a media spokesperson, whatever it is, that there are things that they can say. It's called Say Something for a reason, that everybody has something that they can say and someone in their life that they can say it to that brings us all closer to an end to domestic violence. So the public health research is there. So the more people who get engaged, public health terminology calls it protective factors. We're building protective factors through this program.
Do you have examples of that?
Yes, we talk to people about their say something moments. For me, it came a million ways when our kids who are now, in their early 30s were at home talking to their friends, talking to them, and making observations about things that they said and maybe a way that they could say it differently. Not saying, hey, you're all creepy because you said this, but like, hey, I listened to that thing that you just said. I'm wondering if you've thought through what that really means. Is there another way that you could say that? Is there a way that you could show some more respect for your girlfriend you're talking about or whatever that is? And being in relationship with people and saying something in a way that actually upholds their dignity and humanity. I mean, too many people think that, you have to get your finger in someone's face and say, you're going to be an abuser if you don't stop that thing. That's not effective. But saying, I know you've heard this from your friends, but here's a reframe. Here's another way to think about it.
More coming up with Marianne Winter and Natalie Ulrich as we hear about how the funds from this Hot Chocolate Run get used and how their mission impacts one of the more vulnerable portions of our population, immigrants.
After which, we'll hear about a new coalition in the area seeking to build better networks for fundraising with Resilient Valley. And we'll hear how baby planets get born with Mr. Universe.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
We're talking with the executive director of Safe Passage, Marianne Winters, who will be the beneficiary of the largest fundraiser in Western Mass, and one of the largest athletic fundraisers in the Commonwealth, or in all of New England, I just found out.
Yeah.
The Hot Chocolate Run for Safe Passage, which is this Sunday in downtown Northampton, at which Khalees Smith will be emceeing.
That's true. Whee!
Nice.
Yes. I love seeing costumes, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great event regardless, but during the fun run part, especially, there's just people who are really leaning in.
Yeah.
I love hearing you react when you see the Who's from Whoville or the Santa costumes.
There's like Santa costumes
all
and
of that.
elves,
Yeah.
all sorts of crazy
like
weird
reindeer. There's been like polar bears.
things. People
There
have run it in with wearing a sousaphone.
Yep.
Yeah.
The people on stilts. The
people on
That's
stilts.
great.
Did the
Yes.
whole walk
And
on
like,
stilts.
did you do this whole walk?
The year
Like,
the
that is
banana won the race?
Oh, yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
But we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge the fact that we've lost one of the icons of the Hot Chocolate Run for Safe Passage. Hillary Price, Rhymes with Orange cartoonist, does the design for the mug of hot chocolate that you will actually get at the end of the Hot Chocolate Run, and it's a polar bear and a penguin. Our friend was the penguin, like kind of since practically the beginning that you would see year after year running in the Hot Chocolate Run. Dave Rothstein, who's been on our show multiple times, both for carving out a giant pumpkin and almost breaking the Guinness Book of World Records record for paddling a pumpkin down the Connecticut River, as well as his glorious ice and snow and straw sculptures. And was Dave an actual part of the Hot Chocolate organization, or was him being the penguin in the run just a labor of love?
I mean, Dave's participation definitely predates my time at Safe Passage, but I do know that he was kind of our original penguin. So we have some like pretty kitschy penguin and polar bear costumes that came from somewhere sometime long ago, pre-Amazon. And so for many
Predates me too.
Yeah, so for many of those photos in those early years, Dave is dressed up as our penguin.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty clear that he was a tremendous addition to this community, and he'll be missed.
For sure. And he just passed away a couple weeks ago, very sadly and suddenly.
Yeah.
But it does go to show you the quirky weirdness of this event.
Well, not to take it in an entirely different direction, but like it is not called the Hot Chocolate Run, and I can't emphasize enough that you do actually get hot chocolate
Right.
at the end when you're done running.
And people often don't know that if they haven't
no,
participated
they go
before.
home and they miss it. They get
Yeah.
their mug and they go home. It's like, no, get the hot chocolate.
Yeah, get the hot chocolate. It's really good. Yeah.
And this has had many incarnations over the years as well. But how do you prepare hot chocolate that's still hot for over 5,000 participants at the end of a walk/run? Natalie Ulrich.
So our wonderful friends up at the Western Mass Food Processing Center in Greenfield wake up at before the crack of dawn.
Way before.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
armpit of dark of dawn.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, 100 hours, I like to
Yeah,
say.
I really do love envisioning like giant vats with canoe paddles or something.
That
I-
used to be the way.
It's,
Yes.
I am very 100% positive it's more sanitary than that, but it's really a fun picture. But
It was a key volunteer role, though.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's about 450 gallons that they make, all with ingredients that are donated by Hood and Catalpa Coffee this year. That is all put into these things called wine tainers
Is that what we are?
which keeps it
Maybe if you drink the wine.
magnificently hot
We do.
and has a hose, and we fill up the Cambros with that, and so we are able to serve like piping hot, homemade, like with real cocoa and sugar. There's no
Yeah.
Swiss Miss in this.
Delicious hot chocolate.
Yeah, really good.
It takes 2 gallons of vanilla extract.
Wow.
I know.
Is that where all the
Was
money?
I wrong?
3 gallons. Yeah,
Yes.
wow. That ain't cheap. So donate mightily to a team.
He said it comes out of a hose, and all I can think of is that scene from UHF.
You get to drink from the fire hose! Open wide!
It's a little hot to drink from that fire hose of hot chocolate for sure. If you are still wanting to walk or fun run or run, is it too late to be involved in this year's hot chocolate run?
It is not too late. Right now, there's still about 600 spots left, which
Okay.
might sound like a lot, but during this week, we usually have 200 people a day signing up. So I think that we are actually going to sell out before Friday. Friday's technically the last day to sign up.
But if you believe in the cause and what we've heard about the work that Safe Passage does, there are ways to support without walking or running.
If you want to register to participate, or if you want to make a donation to someone who is participating or to the general organization, you can do all of those things at hotchocolaterun.com.
How has the run allowed you to expand what you offer to the community?
We've been very strategic about trying to build by first using unrestricted money, mostly from the Hot Chocolate Run, to develop things that we know are a need, like our housing and economic program, like our prevention program. We restored our children's program. So we've used it to help launch important initiatives like our immigration program and so forth. Then we can come in with a really strong and competitive proposal for other funds.
Can you tell us a little bit about that immigration program?
When domestic violence and immigration issues are combined, very often the number of options that someone has and the increase of fear are pretty overwhelming. So there are survivors of domestic violence who are being abused by the person that is sponsoring them or supporting them. And in those instances, there are special visas that we can help someone get that can help them disconnect and help them actually get a work permit. Those are written into the Violence Against Women Act. And we have 2 staff members who have a special certification through the Department of Justice to actually do a lot of that legal work to help people get those visas. So
Wow.
that's a huge area. And people have all of the same issues as non-immigrant domestic violence survivors, issues with housing, issues with fear, getting to work, all of those things, plus the political environment is making it really difficult for survivors even to feel safe sending their kids to school or going out to the grocery store.
Well, the Hot Chocolate Run for Safe Passage is a fun way to deal with these very, very serious
Yep.
issues that many members of our community are facing week in and week out. It is, as I've mentioned, the greatest show of community support I think you will see as somebody who lives in the Valley or in the 413. If you have not been, even come to just watch and cheer everybody on. It really
And
is.
you know, it's such a healing place for survivors. I was standing on the sidelines with a survivor one year, and she saw all of these people running by, and she said, "These people are here for me." Like it dawned on her at that moment, and it just changed things for her, in that subtle way. But yeah, know that you are taking a stand in support of people that you probably don't even know.
And that they're not alone because the
Right.
community is showing up in this way.
And Safe Passage is there for folks. If people have been listening to this conversation and they want some assistance from Safe Passage, there is a number that they can call.
Yeah.
The number is for our helpline Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, is 413-586-5066.
Marianne Winters, the executive director of Safe Passage, and Natalie Ulrich, the development director. The Hot Chocolate Run is this Sunday morning in downtown Northampton. Thank you both so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Such a good riff.
I love it.
As of broadcast, there's still spaces for walkers and runners to go and support Safe Passage at the Hot Chocolate Run and get a mug of said hot chocolate on Sunday morning. You can find more information on the Hot Chocolate Run and all things Safe Passage does and offers year-round at safepassage.org.
We'll hear about another organization that's helping to build stronger networks for philanthropy when we talk with Julia Reisman and Laura Wondlowski of Resilient Valley.
But first, we get a glimpse of how the planets get made with Mr. Universe Salman Hameed and see if Monty likes baby planets as much as he likes baby people.
Almost. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Hashi Pottery in 50 Arrow Gallery at Eastworks. Japanese-inspired ceramics and textiles, where every piece is handmade in the Pioneer Valley for home, ritual, or someone dear. HashiPottery.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Comfort Bagel, scratch-made artisan sourdough bagels, spreads, and sandwiches for breakfast or lunch on Main Street in Westfield and at their new location in Holyoke at 92 Race Street. ComfortBagel.com.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Time once again for some more kitchen table astronomy at the Amherst Kitchen Table of Hampshire College astronomer and the head of Kainat Studios, Dr. Salman Hameed. Mr. Universe, I'll have you know that at my Friendsgiving celebration on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I spent a large majority of the time arguing with my childhood best friend about aliens, which has become kind of what I do at parties now. There was a period of time where I would argue politics at parties, but now I sit there and argue about whether or not aliens exist and have to explain to them that I both have faith that aliens do exist and life exists elsewhere, but that we do not have science at all that proves any shred of this that is verifiable and peer-reviewed. It really takes some people a long time to understand that I hold both of those things true. I hold them true because of what I've learned from you over the years, Mr. Universe. So you're the reason I got in a fight with my best friend for like an hour and a half about aliens.
Right, and the key thing is about faith. Do I know aliens exist? Well, I mean, I have a very good reason to believe that there would be life elsewhere. And of course, alien is also a very broad term.
Right.
I mean, are we talking about microorganisms?
Life as we know it? Could life exist in a way that we don't even know yet?
And also, oftentimes people think about intelligent life.
Yeah.
Are we talking about microbes and so on and so forth? So, yeah, I mean, the right phrase would be, I believe there are other life forms out there. I also believe, and this is even more so, that there is probably intelligent life out there. And again, there's a whole issue of how do you define intelligence? But we don't yet have any evidence to show that. Will we ever have any evidence? I believe we will. Do we have it right now? For example, with a alien comet or whatever, no. We leave it at that. There's no need to fight, Monty.
If you know my childhood best friend, and I'm looking at you, Corey Churchill, we're going to fight no matter what. But this kind of leads to what we're talking about today, which is how do planets form? We have theories about how planets form. We have theories about how our solar system formed. We have theories about why we're all in this sort of platter-like orbit around our sun. And now, because we've put some of these theories into practice because of the use of telescopes, we are being able to verify scientifically some of these theories.
Right, so this is a great point. And we have multiple times, we have talked about it and always remind people that today we know there are other planets around other stars, exoplanets. But the first exoplanet was discovered in the early 1990s. In fact,
1990s, not 1890s. The first we could verify. We theorized for more than the 1890s that there would be other planets around other suns, but we couldn't definitely say there are until the 1990s.
And in fact, this is the 30th anniversary of the detection of the first exoplanet around a sun-like star. So that is not that far back. And it's not that astronomers didn't think that planets don't exist around other stars. It's just that it was very hard to detect them. And there are multiple reasons to do that, because you are looking at a faint object around a really bright star. Like, they don't show up that easily. It's like a firefly next to a floodlight, so it will be very hard to detect the firefly.
Yeah.
Take the sky from me.
And so it was a really hard process to detect the first planets around other stars. It didn't mean that they didn't exist. We believed that they existed, but there was no evidence for that. And now we have over 6,000 exoplanets.
Cool.
Right?
Which is still just a drop in the bucket of how many there are actually out there.
All of them, almost all of them, are within 1,000 light years or so around us. So we are just looking at it very closely, and we expect, that our own Milky Way galaxy would have over 1 trillion exoplanets out there. So the scale is immense. Now, life is potentially more complex. Intelligent life is, of course, much more complex. So the likelihood of complex life, we don't know, because so far we only have one evidence for that. But life is not made up of something really strange. Life is made up of some of the most common elements in the universe. John, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, for example. It is not a strange thing to say that, life would be very common, because we are not made up of tritium or some other,
Unobtainium.
Unobtainium. Because this little gray rock sells for $20 million a kilo.
So we are made up of some of the most common elements, and then we look at, the conditions that existed on Earth early on in the solar system. Were those conditions highly unusual? Well, it turns out no. And so that leads us to what we want to talk about today, that the question was, how do planets form? And so the ideas around the solar system formation that have been around for a couple of hundred years. And in fact, there was this idea that probably they form around in some sort of a disk. That's the way how gaseous clouds collapse. And so that
because of gravity, because of the spinning, it turns it into a disk.
Exactly.
Just like a pottery wheel.
That's right. So the way, because there is one axis that it would collapse much more, where the resistance would be less, that's where it's going to collapse. And the material that planets are formed from comes from the disk. And so you would expect most of the planets or all of the planets to lie in one disk or one plane. But we didn't even know planets exist, let alone this, what astronomers call protoplanetary disks. But then astronomers started finding those disks. And in fact, now we know thousands of these protoplanetary disks. And in fact, protoplanetary disks were detected before planets were detected, the exoplanets. So we knew, okay, we have protoplanetary disks. And if you want to understand how our solar system formed, this is the way to do that, because you can look at other star systems. We have our theories about how our solar system formed, and we believe that it was formed with a protoplanetary disk. You look at other star systems which are much new. We are 4.5 billion years old.
I don't feel a day over 23.
It's a middle age. And so if you are going to look for how planets form, you want to look for those stars which are just being born or that are new, that still have the disk around. We don't have the protoplanetary disk around because planets have formed already. The disk material has been cleared out. So we talked a few weeks ago about this system. It was called HOPS 315, which is in the Orion Nebula, in that larger molecular cloud, where astronomers are actually looking at several hundred of these protoplanetary disks specifically. So just in one star system, and that particular project actually takes out one of the variables. What if a star system is different, and so on and so forth? They are looking at these protoplanetary disks in different stages of formation within the same cloud. Same way, when our solar system formed, it didn't just form by itself. There were a lot of siblings around it. It was part of a cloud. So it's like looking at all of those, and then we can actually understand more. So one of the fascinating discoveries when we talked about a few weeks ago was about the detection of silicon monoxide gas, and as well as some crystalline silicate minerals in this protoplanetary disk. Why this is crucial is because we think that this was the first material that condenses out that eventually leads to the formation of planets. How do we know that? By the way, this is also cool. How do we know that? Well, because we have found this material in meteoroids. And the reason why we find them really cool is because they've been floating around for 4.5 billion years. And so they are, in some sense, time capsules. They actually hold the conditions that were there in the beginning of the solar system. Our Earth has transformed a lot. Volcanism, water is terrible for preserving stuff. I mean, it changes things.
Even your house.
Exactly. Yeah. So Earth, if you want to study the conditions 4.5 billion years ago, it's almost impossible to do that because things have changed over the period of time. So if you want to see what was happening 4.5 billion years ago, you want to find stuff that has been preserved in space for 4.5 billion years. And those are, for example, these pieces of rocks. And in there, astronomers had found this kind of crystalline silicate material that was in there. And they was like, okay, so that's one of the first things that condensed out. So in this protoplanetary disk, in the Orion Nebula, they actually found this material. So they go like, aha, we are looking at the star system, and they also knew the age of this star system to be about 100 to 200,000 years old. So just think about it. We are 4.5 billion years old. Astronomers are looking at this star system, which is only 100,000 years old. And they go like, okay, well, we can guess that when our sun was 100,000 years old, around its planetary disk, some of the first material may have started to condense out. And that's what this detection tells us.
It's like looking at a sonogram of your baby in utero, where it's forming. We know it's forming. It's got all the pieces that we know what it looks like, and we're watching it happen right now. Is this the first time we've seen this?
This detection was for the first time that we had detected it in a protoplanetary disk. Now, what I wanted to mention today is another study. Now, astronomers have detected, of course, young planets around stars, but they had not detected a planet inside a protoplanetary disk, which has a planet that has just formed.
And the disk is leftover material, right? And the planet starts to coalesce, takes stuff out of that material disk. It's what happens in the rings of Saturn as well, right? There's a disk, which we know as the rings. Inside that disk are little moons that clear out those parts of those ice rings around Saturn. So we can see it even in our own solar system, how this disk maneuver of creating moons or planets happens.
But it clears out the whole thing. So, bigger planets, for example, clear out stuff, and smaller planets as well. That's how Earth was formed. That's how Jupiter. I mean, of course, Jupiter got a lot more stuff. Jupiter, Saturn, and so on and so forth. So there is a whole fascinating story about how our solar system, how these different planets formed. But we know that planets form out of these protoplanetary disks, and they clear out this material. But do they? Or maybe planets form a little bit outside of it and they migrate inwards. And if that is the case, then it would disrupt this disk material when they are forming, right? So there are two different ideas about that.
Right.
So astronomers had detected gaps in some protoplanetary disks. But those gaps could be because of the way gravity works. I mean, so sometimes there are these resonances. There could be just gaps. Or maybe there are planets in there. Well, now there is a protoplanet around a star, Wispit-2. And so this protoplanet is Wispit-2b, and it's a gas giant about 5 times the mass of Jupiter. Remember I told you that where the first condensed material that was detected, the silicate minerals, that star system was around 100,000 years old. We are 4.5 billion years old. Now, you would expect that the first planet to actually be there somewhere in between. So this Wispit-2 star system is about 5 million years old. And what astronomers found, it has a protoplanetary disk and a gap in there. And they used the Very Large Telescope, VLT, in Chile.
It's a delicious sandwich as well.
And then they detected this gap in the disk. And then they used another telescope, Magellan 2 telescope, also in Chile. And they managed to observe a protoplanet inside this gap. And that is the first time that astronomers have detected an actual protoplanet, because this planet is still growing, which has cleared out the material, but not the whole disk, because the disk is there, and in between that gap, here is a planet.
So we've got the most recent study, which is like the first trimester picture in utero. Then we've got this Wispit-2b, which is like maybe a second trimester, and we were all basing this on the theory of protoplanet and protoplanetary disks and how planets form, so that we can better understand the theory of how our own solar system formed. It was a theory. It seems like a valid theory. We're now seeing it manifest in practice over the course of different generations of planetary development.
Right, and that's where leads us to the middle-aged sun. Then you can actually trace down what will happen to the sun, and that is its eventual demise. And you do that also by looking at stars like our sun, which are much older, which are 10 billion years old or older, and they turn into this beautiful planetary nebulae, and you go like, okay, well, that's going to be the end stage of our sun. But you can see that astronomers, when they talk about our own origins, they're not just making stuff up, or somebody goes like, how do you know it happened? Were you there? Or like, and this happens more in topics like evolution, for example.
Right.
And to me, there is a parallel to that, but this is exactly how we trace origins of life as well. We trace how life evolved on this planet as well. It's not just randomly, oh, well, I guess this is what would have happened. No, but there are a lot of good reasons to imagine what would be happening, and then you look for that evidence. We are doing the same thing out here in astronomy. You cannot see the formation of our own solar system because that happened 4.5 billion years ago, and no, we were not there. But we have very good ideas on how it might have happened. In fact, we've had those ideas for a couple of 100 years, but we didn't have evidence. And then you go like, okay, but then you start detecting it, and you start detecting the first protoplanetary disk. From protoplanetary disk, you're like, well, it must have, condensation must have happened. So then you go much more closer to the first rock-like material that formed that might have turned into a planet, and we also detected the planets. So that's how we piece together the story of our own origins without actually time travel.
It's the scientific method. You can believe in these things, you can want them to be true, but to find the evidence takes time, takes science, takes peer-reviewed studies. You hear that, Corey Churchill? We haven't gotten there yet with aliens.
We may.
I hope it happens in my lifetime.
I hope so. And for Corey, too.
Next, we learn how folks are coming together to make stronger networks of fundraising in the area as we learn about Resilient Valley. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Eastside Grill, celebrating 40 years in downtown Northampton, serving steaks, seafood, and American cuisine to the Pioneer Valley and beyond. Open Wednesday through Monday, eastsidegrill.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar in Hatfield, dedicated to custom solar installations, electric vehicle charging solutions, and reliable long-term system support. northeast-solar.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. A coalition of climate, food system, and farm justice organizations began meeting 2 years ago to collaborate around joint fundraising. At a potluck gathering in March, they shared challenges of more than $3 million in federal grant losses. The group began sharing their vision for a more resilient region that is at risk with the federal government's pullback and attacks on our freedom and our shared future.
Since then, the group has grown to include more than a dozen organizations, from land trusts to food banks to community health advocates. Together, they are working to document the scale of funding losses, speak out about the resulting harm, and explore innovative ways to sustain their missions. And they're working under the name Resilient Valley.
With us to talk about this endeavor are two members of Resilient Valley, Julia Reisman from CET, Center for Ecotechnology, and Laura Wondlowski from the Peace Development Fund, also president of the City Council in the great city of Greenfield, Massachusetts.
Go Green Wave.
I'm from Turner's, so that's some fighting words right there.
Oh, I miss
Great
having
Falls.
the CET Eco Building Center right down the street from my house. It was such a great resource when I first moved into this area, and I have so many of their fixtures in the first floor of the home that I now own, and I just genuinely miss it.
Yeah. Thank you for the shout out for
Sure.
Eco Building Bargains. It was an incredible program for almost 25 years. So.
Oh, that just makes it hurt a little bit more.
So what is CET doing now?
CET provides help to homeowners and businesses to reduce the amount of energy they use in their buildings, winterize and reduce their carbon footprints, and reduce the amount of food waste that's going to landfills, redirecting wasted food to people who need it, as well as to getting it composted. So we're a climate solutions organization.
Nice. And what about the Peace Development Fund, Laura?
We are a funder of social justice grassroots organizing both around the country and here in the Valley. And we are donor funded, so we fundraise the money that we give away. So we did not have one rich white guy pass away and leave us a huge endowment. It was a
But we'll take it.
grassroots effort to get this organization off the ground more than 40 years ago.
Yeah, and so this new organization is really interesting. It's donor-advised funds. Some people have that capacity to have a donor-advised fund, but if you don't, what is a donor-advised fund, a DAF?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a charitable giving vehicle. So, like, say you, Monty.
Like the ones we donate to fund public radio?
Yes.
Oh, not those charitable giving vehicles.
So that money comes over, and then you need a tax break in a certain year. So maybe your grandma passed and she left you $500,000, and it makes most sense for you to get that tax break this year,
Yeah.
but you don't want to give it all away this year. So people have been setting up donor advised funds. It's a carve out from the IRS for probably 40 years now. We have them at the Peace Development Fund, but it's a way that people can over time make an advised gift that can go anywhere and the size is usually $250 to, millions.
Uh-huh. And sometimes this money just sits in these funds for a very long time. And I think what the Resilient Valley is saying is now is that time. It is the rainy day. Is that what we're thinking right now, Julia?
Yes. So it is increasingly more popular for people to set up donor advised funds. Some people are giving dribs and drabs of it. Some people forgot that their tax advisor told them to set it up. They set it up and then they forgot they had it.
Exactly.
Right? So now is the moment to inspire more generosity, to meet the needs of our communities, to show up when folks are hungry. And so our coalition came together. We realized that we were never going to make up the lost money that the federal government pulled the plug on.
Mm-hmm.
But we were not going to be able to survive this moment by being split apart. We'd be stronger together. And when we realized that what we really wanted to do was to spark generosity, to spark people to imagine the future we want for our community, for our children and our grandchildren, and to work for that vision, to work for a resilient, thriving community. And as a climate solutions organization, what I understand is the resilient future we want includes housing for everyone and mental health and great schools and places of gathering and worship. It's all the solutions of all the nonprofit organizations doing all the good work we're doing. So the great thing about this match for donor advised funds to inspire people to give more generously is that there's a dollar for dollar match for every donation you give to any cause in Franklin, Hampshire, or Hampden County that you care about. The match is there for all of you. A small group of us came together to pull together this pool of funds, but we'll match any donation to any cause you love.
And this officially kicks off tomorrow, right, with Giving Tuesday?
We thought it was the best time because people are in a mood for generosity starting, this holiday time. And you've got from now, December 2nd, until May Day to make your donor advised fund gifts, give more generously than you've done in the past. And if you register those grants with us, then there will be a raffle. 2 raffles. We're going to do one right after Groundhog Day, and the second is right after May Day.
We're going to do it right after Groundhog Day again.
We're going to pop up.
I want to just really quickly list the organizations that are part of Resilient Valley currently because we couldn't invite them all on the air. But All Farmers, Amherst Survival Center, Cancer Connection, Center for Ecotechnology, Community Involved in Sustaining Agriculture, CISA, Grow Food Northampton, Hilltown Land Trust, Hitchcock Center for the Environment, Kestrel Land Trust, Northampton Survival Center, Nuestras Raíces, Peace Development Fund, and Stone Soup Cafe are all part of this coalition of Resilient Valley.
I often say that the nonprofit world is kind of like local music scenes. Everyone's kind of passing the same $5 around. How does an effort like this really end up kind of combating that and allowing that money that's raised to go a little bit further?
I think it's amplifying because it's a lot of the same donors, right? And they're getting pulled apart. Everybody's asking them. And what we wanted to do as a coalition is say, like, we know that you, donor, are being asked all the time. So by putting money into the pool, you can have your money go further and help lots of organizations, or you can give money directly to your favorite organization and get it matched. So that way your, $1,000 could be $2,000.
And so I listed a bunch of the organizations that are nonprofits that are part of this. But if you wanted to give to a different organization, can you still do it through Resilient Valley and still get the match?
Correct. That's absolutely true. Because I know I want to give to my kids' school. I want to give to my place of worship. I want to give to my local food pantry. I want to give to all kinds of solutions and opportunities. This match is asking people to be more generous, to give more than they did last year from their donor advised fund, give to all the causes you care about. And this coalition has pulled together to get that match dollar for dollar up to $5,000 for those gifts.
Does the money only have to come? Does the money need to come from donor advised funds, or can it come from other places as well?
I encourage people to give however they can for whatever amounts they can. If you don't have a donor advised fund, yay on you for showing up in this moment and being generous. This match is only for donor advised funds because we're trying to get money that people already set aside to give charitably to give it away.
Yeah.
Now's the time, right? Don't sit on your DAF. Do something. Be generous.
Get off
Don't
your DAF.
DJAF. GAF with your DAF. The kids will get that, but nobody else will. And we're speaking with
6-7.
6-7. Can you donate $6-7 million? Oh my God.
I have a 16-year-old.
I knew it was coming.
We're speaking with Laura Wondlowski from the Peace Development Fund and Julia Reisman from the Center for Ecotechnology, who are part of this new initiative, Resilient Valley, that will officially kick off tomorrow.
Not to take away from the fundraising aspect of this, but what are some similarities that you found within your two organizations in coming together in that initial potluck?
I think what really sparked, and I was like late to the game, so these groups have been meeting for 2 years, and when they were like despondent about it, I got invited in as someone working in philanthropy to just sit with folks and see what can we do. And you would think at the end of this potluck, we would have just been all like, oh my gosh, we all lost $5 million. But the thing that I really saw was everybody really turned around and wanted to build our future together. And I have to say, one of the highlights of my year is working with this coalition of organizations because people have been so generous with their time. We're raising money not for ourselves, but for a match pool to give to other people. How many times do you do that as a development director?
Yeah, that's pretty great.
It's been synergistic.
And the medicine we needed in a moment of deep despair. I think we all remember when this new administration came in and started to defund programs that we already knew were funded. It was shocking, and it was higher ed and recently with the worry about SNAP, worrying about people just getting food on the table. I think with the anxiety that we're holding in this moment, to do the opposite, which is to come together and to support one another and to figure out how to show up for everyone, has been a joy. It's been a real joy. So that's given me the energy and I'm just so excited for this program.
We're speaking about the brand new Resilient Valley, which will officially kick off on Giving Tuesday tomorrow. We're speaking with Julia Reisman from CET and Laura Wondlowski from the Peace Development Fund. This idea of giving essentially 10% more, I think is the number that you're asking for, from these donor-advised funds, is part of a national movement. We had local author Chuck Collins, who was the heir to the Oscar Mayer fortune, on a couple weeks ago, talking about how these donor-advised funds are oftentimes places people sink their money so that they can just hold on to it and get the tax break, but not actually do anything with it. This is part of a national movement that we're bringing here to the Valley, right?
That's right. There, if you look at the numbers, there's about $251 billion sitting in donor-advised funds, and it's
across the country.
Across the country, and it's Fidelity's, and it's Schwab, and the Community Foundation, and Peace Development Fund. But generally, people who are putting money through a community foundation are trying to move their money more quickly. About 5 years ago during the pandemic, Half My Daff started through some philanthropists in California. And they were really urging people at that moment of crisis to get half of their money each year out the door. And they're matching that with it started with $1 million match, and now it's up to $2 million. So we said, we could do this here in the Valley. We're not going to do $1 million, but we're aiming for $250,000. And we've got, donors who are super excited about this and the ability to get together.
So in the minute we have left, if you have a DAF, what do people do to get this going in the right direction starting tomorrow for Giving Tuesday with Resilient Valley? Julia?
Go to www.resilientvalleyma.org, and you'll find a button that says Submit Your Gifts here. You don't have to do it tomorrow. Start giving generously tomorrow. You have until February to give 10% more than you did last year. And submit those gifts, and they'll go into the lottery, and we'll double your donation. Make sure it's $250 or more.
That's right.
If you don't have a DAFT, would you please reach out to organizations you love and let them know about this campaign? Because every nonprofit, if they have staff, if they don't have staff, can submit gifts. Tell people if you're donating from a DAFT, go get it matched. And if you are a donor who'd like to join in the pool and add to the pool, contact us also through that website and contribute to the pool, and you can help unleash more generosity to our valley.
It's Daft Punk. Which is who I wish I picked as the outro music.
I was just thinking, did you do that
No,
already?
I did
oh my
REM.
gosh, I'm so proud.
REM. But we've been speaking with Julia Reisman from the Center for Ecotechnology and Laura Wondlowski from the Peace Development Fund, who are two of the organizations that are part of Resilient Valley, this exciting new thing that will officially launch tomorrow. Thank you so much.
On the next Fabulous 413, we hear about a production of It's a Wonderful Life that has live Foley.
And we'll have live Foley in the studio with them. We'll also do a Giving Tuesday Ask to You, and we'll head to Chicopee, where a 117-year-old farm is still farming. We'll see you tomorrow.
Cheers.